To continue from where we left off, we went aboard the Excelsior and began to move towards Azys Lla. We arrive back in the rusty domain of Azys Lla, approaching the barrier. Estinian stands at the front of the ship. He begins harnessing Nidhogg's might to power the etheric converger. It creates a dark lance of energy atop the ship. Estinian has a struggle with the eye, but he won't let it consume him. The ram collides with the barrier. A battle ensues. We push. The ram worked. The barrier is shattered. We made it through into Azys Lla. However, right underneath us is the Garlean's flagship. It seems like they were waiting for us to open the door for them. The flagship opens fire towards us. Sid tells everyone to hold on, he's going to try something. Sid begins doing evasive actions to avoid being hit. The Excelsior is hit. The ship is going down. We cut to Ysael riding Heavensward. They have made their peace between each other. Heavensward sensed Estinian using Nidhogg's eye, and Ysael wanted to go help them. She says that it is time to use Hydaelyn's gift. A lot of blood was spilled in her name for a false cause that she made up herself in a want of companionship. She asks for forgiveness from Heavensward and Saint Shiva. Even so, she will not forget her dream. She dreams of a tomorrow where no child will need to freeze in the snow alone. We cut back to us still being fired at by their flagship. We spot Heavensward and Ysael. She jumps off of Heavensward towards the flagship. She activates Shiva's power. She freezes the cannon fire that was fired right towards her. The bullets cannot make their mark as she begins dancing around their fire. Eventually their bullets do land. She winces in pain, but she cannot stop. She glances towards the Excelsior. We have managed to get away from the flagship. She begins gathering ice around her, turning herself into a gigantic spear and launches herself straight towards the flagship. She collides with it. A bright light blinds us. She caused massive damage to the flagship and brought us the time we needed to get away. But she is exhausted. She is out of energy. Hydrus orders his men to fire at her. The cannon fire is relentless. More shots go towards her. She begins to fall out of the air. Shiva's form disappears and returns back to Ysael. She looks towards the Excelsior and says her final farewell to the Warrior of Light, and thanks us for showing her the way. Her form returns to Aether. Again, we see one of our comrades die right in front of us. Alfinawad calls out to her. Y'shtola remarks that her Aether was the same as the Crystal of Light. She too was one of Hydaelyn's chosen. We all look towards where she fell. Her bright blue light pierces the yellow rusty clouds surrounding Azys Lla. We say goodbye to Ysael and land safely on the ground because of her sacrifice. We establish a base camp. Before we realize it, Wedge has wandered off without telling anyone. We need to find him before he gets himself killed. We find Wedge and he has found an Allagan node. It asks us to agree to the terms and conditions before we can use it. It asks us to assign a name. Wedge tells it his name and ours. The node begins to move and we follow it. The node activates one of the nearby terminals. It seems that someone recently activated the Helix, which is this area. We assume the Archbishop did it. We try to find where the Archbishop is, but instead find out that the Garleans tripped the defense system in the Gamma Quadrant. Sid instead tries searching by what area is consuming the most energy. They are in the Triad Control within the research facility. What is the Triad Control? All the terminal says is that it is a regulation facility for the Warring Triad's test subjects. Any other information is blocked out as we need higher privileges. We do not like the sound of this place, so we need to figure out a way to get across to the facility in the center of Azys Lla so we can stop the Archbishop. The node knows how to get us over to the research facility. It brings us over to a terminal and activates an Allagan transporter. This should move us from the matter conduit to the beta quadrant. We activate the teleporter, and it does just as the node said it would. We arrive at the beta quadrant teleporter and do the same again. There is a small issue as nearby creatures are siphoning the energy which is used to power the teleporter. We kill the creatures and report back to the node. Just as we did before, we activate the terminal. We teleport from the Beta Quadrant over to the Gamma Quadrant. When we arrive, we see that the Garleans have made their base on this part of Azys Lla. They are currently repairing the flagship, but they won't be able to fly for some time. We avoid confronting them and go to a different location. We keep exploring the Gamma Quadrant. There seems to be Imperials at every turn. We try our best to avoid confronting them, but sometimes it doesn't work out as planned. We learn why the Garleans are pursuing the knowledge in the research facility. They want to know how the Allagans bound primals to their will. By binding them, they won't need to kill them, and the beastmen won't be able to re-summon them. Instead, they could just keep them trapped in here forever, thus ending the cycle of primals on Eorzea. It is interesting to know, but we cannot dwell here. We need to get to the research facility and stop the Archbishop. We move to the Gamma Quadrant teleporter and activate the node one last time. Just before we finish activating it, we are attacked by Garlean soldiers. Regular Von Hydrus arrives and sends the other soldiers away and challenges the champions of Eorzea to a battle. We defeat him. He now understands how Gaius von Balzar was defeated. He remarks that there is no profit to be made by standing here fighting us. So instead, he decides to overwhelm us with numbers to keep us preoccupied as he retreats to the center facility. Afinawad tells us that they will hold them off and we should go on ahead. Estinian trusts Nidhogg's eye to us, telling us its strength will prove useful. They won't be far behind us. We activate the node and the teleporter begins powering up. We step into the teleporter and teleport away from the Gamma Quadrant and into the Delta Quadrant. This quadrant is home to live dragons. Upon roaming the Delta Quadrant, we find a bound great Wyram. Midgardsormr appears. This dragon is known as Tiamat. She was Bahamut's mate. She cannot believe that it is her father, but it is. He calls us the mortal who desires to end the war between man and dragon. He tells her of what we have done. She is unsettled upon hearing this. To think that the war between man and dragon still rages on even after all this time. She tells us her tale. She is Tiamat, first brood of Midgardsormr. Midgardsormr had 7 children. They hatched and took flight across Hydaelyn. Together with Bahamut, Tiamat went to the south of Mericidia and they birthed innumerable amounts of children. They had peace until the men of Allag came. They killed their children and slew Bahamut. When she was in despair, the Ashians came to her and promised to resurrect Bahamut with their dark arts. What was brought back was just a mockery of her beloved. The beings we call gods are just phantoms of real gods. Bringing them to life only hurts Hydaelyn, nothing more. If we want to end the conflict, slay the Ashians. Even after all this time, Tiamat regrets what she did. She won't forgive herself even after 5,000 years. Whilst being bound in this machine, she cannot die, but she doesn't desire freedom. She will live with her regrets until the world dies. It is her punishment for consorting with darkness, for creating a lamentable creature in the image of her beloved Bahamut. This prompts us to have a vision. We arrive in our vision world. The crystal of fire lights up and regains its original color and vigor. With this, we have finally collected all the crystals and have restored the blessing of Hydaelyn. We can clearly hear Hydaelyn's voice once more. She tells us that we have regained our blessing, but now is not the time to celebrate. We need to defeat the darkness. We awake from our vision. Midgardsormr tells us that we broke down the wall he built around us and regained her blessing. We are the strongest mortal. He deems us worthy to bear her light. The covenant bound us together, but it seems that fate may have had something in plan for us instead. Midgardsormr won't fight our battles, but he will lend us his wings. He allows us to ride him to the research facility to defeat the darkness. We arrive in the Aetherochemical Research Facility. We fight our way through. We are confronted by regular Von Hydrus, but we make short work of him. Pushing ever forward, we are confronted by 2 Ashians, specifically Laha Brea and Igeyorm. They begin to challenge us. For Zodiac, the meddling warrior of light will end here. But with our restored gift of Hydaelyn, we are more than ready to face an Ascian or two. We defeat them both. They remark at our incredible display of strength. Igiom states that it is time. Let's show them the true power of the Echo and break down the walls of existence. They both raise their arms in the air and begin channeling dark aether around their bodies. I will become you, and we become one. Dark aether covers their entire being. The dark aether goes from a purple to red. What emerges is a single entity. They challenge us again. But in the end, the entity known as Ascian Prime is defeated by us. The single entity splits back into the original two. Laha Brea had foreseen that we would regain our blessing, but he did not think we'd be this strong. Igiom calls for a retreat, like we'd let her leave. We throw the white Auracite, left behind by Moen Breeder, and trap her in it. Then we channel our light into Nidhogg's eye and create a beam of pure aether. We fire it directly at the white Auracite. Just as it did with Nabralis, the white Auracite shatters. That makes two Ascians permanently killed by us. All Laha Brea could do was sit there and watch us slay another one of his kin. But we now do not have the power to slay an Ascian. We used up all the energy in the eye to defeat Igiom. Out of nowhere, Thordran VII arrives, mentioning that the Warrior of Light is unable to defeat an Ascian without relying on mortal contrivances. He begins to recite Ishgard's past. The left eye of Nidhogg was passed down from Azure Dragoon to Azure Dragoon, but its twin resided in the body of Haldrath, the first Azure Dragoon. He did learn of how to harness its power, but he was consumed by it. Even in death, his body didn't decompose. Thordran finally reveals his cards, that he has been waiting for this moment to defeat the Ascians. He raises his staff towards the sky. It begins channeling aether. A blinding light blocks our vision, and what emerges from that light is an entirely different being. The Archbishop has turned into an incarnation of the original King Thordran, a gigantic knight, donning an ever-flowing red cape. He reaches towards Haldrath and converts his body into a sword, with Nidhogg's eye residing in the center of the hilt. He is a god who has been sustained by a millennia of prayer, and he has access to the endless reservoir of the eye. He is the strongest primal we have ever seen. He swings his gigantic blade right towards the Ascian, firing a blade of light, killing Laha Brea's physical form instantaneously. Then the moment he converts into his etheric form, King Thordran absorbs his soul into his blade. He just killed an Ascian with his own strength. He will kill all Ascians, dragons and primals. No matter where they are, he will slay those who sow the seeds of doubt. Even though he does what he does for the greater good, he is still a primal. His very existence is a detriment to the world. We approach King Thordran and challenge him to a battle. We cannot let him exist. The 12 knights begin channeling primal powers onto themselves. Theoretically, we are battling against 13 primals. The other 12 may not be as strong as Thordran, but they are invoking primal power. But it does not matter. We have to fight. With our returned blessing, we are strong enough to face them. Thordran's might is unimaginable, but in the end, we come out victorious against him and the 12 knights. King Thordran is on his knees. He tries to swing his blade towards us, but his form disappears. His blade hits the ground. The rest of the knights lose their form, and their physical form returns to aether. Thordran cannot believe how strong we are. How do we stand against the millennia of prayer and the strength of the eye? He looks towards us, but he doesn't see us as the warrior of light, but a man shrouded in black fog. He asks us, who, nay, what are we? Before his physical form disappears, Thordran and his knights are no more. Estinian arrives, and we return the eye back to him. He notices Thordran's sword has another eye in the center. He proceeds to take it out. He now holds both of Nidhogg's eyes. The pair is finally together. All that remains is to take them beyond the reach of man and dragon. Then Estinian will finally be free of his tolls. In that moment, Estinian relaxes. He lets his walls down ever so slightly. It is just enough that Nidhogg takes full advantage of it. The eyes begin to glow brightly, seething with red aether. Nidhogg speaks to Estinian. He did well to resist the influence, even when bathed in his blood and carrying both of his eyes, but just for a moment he dropped his guard. The feeling of comfort ahead of him made him vulnerable. Estinian screams out in agony. He feels the smoldering desire for vengeance by Nidhogg's kin. The eyes have taken 1,000 years of pain, and he will now give that pain to Estinian, drink deep of his rage, and become him. Estinian collapses. Nidhogg's purple and red aether burst out from him. He turns into Nidhogg himself, a fully restored Nidhogg, mind you, who has both of his eyes returned. He immediately flees the research facility. Midgardsormr appears to ask what is Fury made of his son, and allows us to ride him to safety. We flee the facility on the back of Midgardsormr and reunite with our friends aboard the Excelsior. We fly alongside them and they remark at our feats. We did it again. We will return to Ishgard and tell the people what happened in there. Y'shtola asks where is Estinian? We arrive in Ishgard. The people are scared upon seeing Midgardsormr. The knights draw their bows, only to realize that it is us riding on his back. Imeric signals for them to lower their weapons. We are the first person ever to arrive to Ishgard riding on the back of a dragon, but it is a sight to be remembered for thousands of years. Alfinawad tells them what happened in the research facility. Midgardsormr speaks to Imeric and everyone, revealing that he has been traveling with us to see our deeds in the conflict between man and dragon. He asks, do the children of Thordran desire peace? They kneel. Imeric states that they have committed unspeakable amounts of atrocities to the dragons over the years, but with the current state of affairs, the future offers them a chance to begin anew. They have broken free of the original ways of Ishgard. Nidhogg is gone. Peace can be had. They will make Ishgard a place where man and dragon can live together in harmony. Midgardsormr will remember these words. However, Nidhogg does live on. His rage claimed Estinian as his vessel. Nidhogg will send his brood here not too long from now. We must steel ourselves. The real test for peace is about to come. 1,000-year war cannot end in a day, but what Ishgard begins, their children will continue. Entrust to your children your hopes and dreams, and peace may remain. Midgardsormr then flies away. Some time passes. We see Ishgard with their sister nations inside Ishgard walls. He signs a paper. Sir Imeric, acting on the behalf of the Archbishop, has signed that the Holy See will rejoin the Eorzean Alliance and stand against the Garlean Empire. All four of the leaders gather and draw their weapons. They put their weapons together in the center. For the future of Eorzea, they raise their weapons towards the sky. The crowd cheers. Ishgard has finally rejoined its sister nations and has opened up its borders. We arrive in a place in the Coerthas Highlands. We have created a grave for Horsfont in one of his favorite places, which overlooked Ishgard from above. We take the broken shield and place it against the gravestone. This way, Horsfont can watch over Ishgard for the rest of its days. It has been a long journey and we have lost a lot on the way, but our purpose is true. We will keep pushing forward for them. We will rebuild the Scions. So ends a glorious chapter in our tale. The 1,000 years of the church is gone. The people take their first steps into the unknown. Peace is on the horizon, but Nidhogg's vengeful shadow ever stays. As long as they hold on to hope, one day true peace will return to Ishgard. Man and dragon will live in harmony once more. The deeds done will never be forgotten and will inspire the next generations to do the same. The credits begin to roll. We cut to Elidibus on the moon, talking about the death of his companions, Lahabrea and Igeorm. It falls to just Elidibus to fix this alone. Without intervention, the balance between light and dark will begin to fall in favor of the light, which could ruin all of their plans. Equilibrium needs to be restored, which is why he calls upon the Warrior of Darkness. He looks identical to how we did not too long ago. Who is this man? We then cut to a sunny day in Idleshire. Sid and Y'shtola are conversing with the goblins who live here, stating that there is no rest for the righteous. Then suddenly a trembling can be felt. Aether begins to swell in the center of the lake. A gigantic machine appears. It begins to float to the surface. It starts to climb out of the lake. It is no machine. That is a primal. A primal of this size. That is not heard of. It takes one arm out of the lake, but then ceases to move. Spires of deception crumbled to dust. to lay bare the truths long concealed. Beyond simmering shadow lieth simmering light. And that ends the base version of Heavensward, and what a story it was to behold. We started our journey with much contempt for the dragons, and were complacent with slaughtering them as if they were wild beasts. Progressing through the story, we learned that dragons are incredibly smart. Their minds may even be more complex than man. Some dragons were even Elezen originally, just given new form by consuming Nidhogg's blood. This war cannot continue. The truth had been concealed within Ishgard for 1,000 years, just so that the war could continue. But now, with the truth revealed, the people are aware and apologetic for the atrocities their kind have committed. It does seem like peace is truly within their grasp. All they must do now is push forward, for those we have lost, for those we can yet save. The only thing standing in our path of true peace is Nidhogg's ever-looming shadow. How will we deal with him? Well, you'll just have to see in the next part. I thank you for watching. If you made it this far, just know that you are acknowledged and appreciated. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, or thumbs down if you didn't. Consider subscribing if you're interested in more content like this. May you ever walk in the light of the crystal.